lovers, haters, addicts, and fanatics out there. This is Larry Patterson coming to you for GT365. That's Game Time 365 Sports, live here on the GTSN. That's the Game Time Sports Network. And you're watching 32 teams in 32 days, Baltimore Ravens edition. It's the last team closing out the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, AFC North champs, Baltimore Ravens. Started the season 5-1 last year. They ended the season on a 5-0 note before heading to the playoffs, facing off against the same team that bounced them out the year before, which is the Tennessee Titans. Beat them 20-13. Then the next week they traveled to Buffalo and lost. Only scored 3 points in that contest. It was 17-13 to be exact. Just did not show up. Lamar Jackson had a pretty bad game. Defense had a pretty okay game up and down, but either way, they lost. This team is in prime position to be in that same position again next year. Going to the playoffs. One of the top teams in the AFC, one of the best teams in the AFC North, and we got that whole division kind of being dubbed as competition. But I think it is only going to come down to 3 teams. This team, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, sprinkle Cincinnati in there too. I'm not saying they're gonna be competitive, as I said the other shows, but I think that they're gonna be in the thick of things, at least somewhat competitive. But going down to the stretch of things, kind of drift off. But that's neither here nor there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's talk about the key departures for this team. Matt Judon, who led the team in sacks last year, which was 6. Yannick Ngakoue, who was traded multiple times last year from Jacksonville to Minnesota, from Minnesota to Baltimore. He's gone. Jaheed Ward, he's gone. Willie Snead, he's gone. Morgan Cox, who was a long snapper. Mark Ingram went to Houston, and they traded Orlando Brown Jr., which is one of the top offensive linemen. Trade him to Kansas City. So that's a body that's moved off of your offensive line, and now you kind of got to regroup. Key additions for this squad: Sammy Watkins, a wide receiver, who I think he's hurt right now. It's nothing new. But Kevin Zeitler, a guard from, I believe he played in New York last year. Or he might have been in Cleveland. I'm not sure. Josh Oliver, who was a tight end out of Jacksonville, who's a 3-year vet. I think he's probably going to his 4th year, but he was hurt most of his career. I like this kid, and things could be promising on the way with that. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to the tight ends. Alejandro Villanueva, who was with Pittsburgh, and I think he was released from Pittsburgh, but he signed with Baltimore. So what better team to go to other than your arch rival? On this team, with this team on the pass last year, in offense, they were ranked 32nd. They were not a good passing team last year. They were more of a running team. But the last 2 years, they were more of a running team. 2,739 yards in the pass game. It's not really enough. You know what I'm saying? I think that they should air the ball out a little bit more. Defensively in the past, they were ranked 6th. And that is a very good defense over there. Over 3,500 yards allowed. So in the run game, top 10 on offense and defense. In the run on the offensive side of the ball, they were ranked 1st with over 3,071 yards being accumulated from that offense, and that comes from guys like J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, of course, with J.K. Dobbins, who had a big breakout year, Gus Edwards, who contributed some, and then on the defense, you got they were ranked 8th only allowing 1,740 yards, and that includes the big Derrick Henry stop. They held him to 40 yards in that wild card round. In the wild card round game, only held him to 40. Only held him to 40 yards versus the previous year in the playoffs. I think he ran for like, I want to say 200 plus against this Baltimore team, which was very, very surprising to me. And that's the game when Derrick Henry stiff armed Earl Thomas, and Earl Thomas kind of didn't know where he where he wanted to go. But yeah, that's for the for offense and defense on both the pass and the run last year. On third downs, this team was ranked fourth on offense. On defense, they were ranked second. That's not surprising. On fourth down, still offense ranked eighth, defense ranked ninth. So top 10 on that on the fourth down. And then on the red zone, outside of the top 10 on offense, they were ranked 12th. And on defense, they were ranked 18th. So not a very good red zone defense. But nevertheless, they are still an awesome defense getting things done. Let's get started with the roster. For the Ravens roster, starting with the quarterbacks, Tyler Huntley, who's going into year number 2. Lamar Jackson, who's going into year number 4. Lamar Jackson, the MVP season in 2019, he passed for over 1,300 yards. He passed for over 3,100 yards, 3,127 to be exact, and 36 touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,206 yards and 7 touchdowns. And as I said, that was his MVP year. That was a very awesome year. 2020 was a little bit of down year for him. I think he missed a game due to COVID. 2,757 yards thrown through the air, 26 touchdowns. So you're 10 minus 10 with the touchdowns. And then he had 1,005 yards. So, that's minus 200 of what he had the year before, and 7 touchdowns. So, relatively in the run game, he was still, okay, not what he was the year before, but definitely the 2,700 yards, definitely can improve. And that's because of the lack of receivers that they have, man. And it seems like this team is getting receivers, but none of them are really panning out. Trace McSorley, who's going to his third year from Penn State, and Kenji Bahar from Monmouth, who's a rookie. The running backs, J.K. Dobbins, who had a big year. As I said, he had like 800 yards, he had 805 yards to be exact, 9 touchdowns. So that was a big breakout year for him. I didn't want to put him in a top 10 running backs, I didn't want to put him there because that would kind of be, up in the ante a little bit, but he's headed that way, especially if he keeps going the way he's going. 24 targets for 18 receptions, 120 yards, no touchdowns. I think if he had a little bit more of that, he would definitely be in the fold. Gus Edwards, who had 144 carries for 723 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he was definitely contributing to that running game himself. Justice Hill going into his third year. Nate McCrary, who's a rookie. Tyson Williams and Pat Ricard, Project Pat, as they call him, are going into year number 5 as the fullback. For the wide receivers, Rashad Bateman, who's also injured right now. Don't know exactly when he's coming back, and hopefully he will come back this year. Miles Boykin going to his third year. Hollywood Brown going to his third year, and he definitely needs some production, especially if he wants to go in year 4 with some kind of contract negotiation or whatever. Um, and hopefully he could be. I mean, the only thing about it is he's just so small, man. Deion Kane going to his fourth year. Devin Duvernay going to his second year. Devin Duvernay uh, was definitely okay. He was definitely good in special teams as far as kick returns, punt returns. I think James Prochet got more of the punt returns, but Devin Duvernay definitely did his thing on the kick returns. Michael Dieris from Georgetown, Devin Gray, Jalen Moore, Cioce Mariner from Utah State, Benjamin Victor, as I said, James Prochet, uh, Sammy Watkins, as I mentioned, that was injured, and Tylan Wallace, who's a rookie. And that completes your wide receiver room. Tight ends. Mark Andrews going into year 4. Mark Andrews definitely one of the best tight ends in this league and growing. And hopefully it'll be a big year for him. Nick Boyle going into year number 7. Ben Mason, who's a rookie. Josh Oliver, as I was saying, going into year number 3. And if you take out, Nick Boyle, really, who else is going to be the other tight end? And especially in some sets, they run 2 tight end sets, or most sets, because they're a run first team. If Josh Oliver didn't get a chance to see how he was doing in camp, but if he can definitely get things going, especially in the as a pass catcher anyway, not so much in the run game, but as a pass catcher, it could definitely be a big year for him, or a step in the right direction. Tony Paulgen, who's a rookie, and Eric Tomlinson, who's been in the league for 6 years. So that rounds out the weapons as far as offense. Offensive line, Tristan Colon going to his second year. Bradley Bozeman going to his 4th year. Ben Bredesen, Ben Cleveland, who's a rookie. Greg Mance going to his 6th year. Patrick McCarry going to his 3rd year. Tyree Phillips going to his 2nd year. Ben Powers, 3rd year. Kevin Zeitler, who was a acquisition, off-season acquisition, going into his 10th year. Adrian Ely, who's a rookie. Jawan James, who was injured in the offseason for Denver. He came over from Denver. He was injured, not at the facilities. So Denver had no other choice but to let him go. Ravens took a chance on him, signed him to a deal, which would basically, get him rehab this offseason. And then next season, hopefully he can be a good serviceable Jawan James. He didn't have a good season in like his last season in Miami. Other than that, he only played, I want to say, 3 games for the Broncos, and it was definitely a contract he did not live up to. So hopefully positive spirits for Jawan James, and hopefully he takes a step in the right direction next year. Foster Sorrell, who's a rookie. Michael Schofield going to his 8th year. Andre Smith going into his 12th year. Ronnie Stanley going into his 6th year. I think he was hurt last year, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. And Alejandro Villanueva, who comes over from the enemy, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a move right there that surprised me myself. But hey, man, you got to get the money, man. So that rounds out the offense. Defensively, talk about this defense right here. Calais Campbell going into year number 14. Derek Wolfe going into year number 10. That's your defensive ends. Defensive tackles, Aaron Crawford. Justin Ellis going into year number 8. Xavier Kelly, who's a rookie. Justin Metabuki going into year number 2. Jovan Swan, who's a rookie. Broderick Washington, who's a second-year player. And Brandon Williams, one of the nice spotlights of the interior defensive line. He's going to year number 9. Linebackers, Dalen Hayes, who's a rookie from Notre Dame. Justin Houston going into year number 11. Atero Alaka going into year number 3. Chris Board, year number 4. Tyus Bowser going into year number 5, who's one of the leaders of this defense. Jalen Ferguson, LJ Ford going into year number 7. Malik Harrison going into his second year. I believe he's from Ohio State. Pernell McPhee going into year number 11. Adafi Owe, who's a rookie. Christian Welsh, who's going to year number 2. And then Patrick Queen, who was drafted out of LSU last year. Patrick Queen had 106 tackles, 3 sacks. He had 86 blitzes, and the only downside to it, he led the team with missed tackles, 21 missed tackles. So you definitely got to count for those missed tackles, and he'll get better. But I felt like I had to highlight him because that was good for him to step up in that role as a rookie, to be the future of this team, the future leader of this team. So go Patrick Queen. For the cornerbacks, you got Anthony Everett going into year 4, Khalil Dorsey going into year 2, Marlon Humphrey going into year 5. Marlon Humphrey, 11 pass deflections, 8 forced fumbles, 2.5 sacks. He had 82 tackles, and he had 1 interception. The 8 forced fumbles, I believe, was a career high. And Marlon Humphrey is one of the specialists in the league at punching that ball out. Whether you watching Sunday NFL Countdown or whether you watching NFL on Fox, the pregame shows, or just regular weekly on ESPN, you will see that highlighted of him being one of those specialists of punching that ball out, forcing turnovers. That's somebody that you need on a defense. You need a dog like that to get you those turnovers. And he's been one of those guys, and he continues to be one of those guys. Marcus Peters, 9 pass deflects last year, 4 forced fumbles. He had 52 tackles, and he had 4 interceptions. I remember when Marcus Peters first came in the league, my man had 8 interceptions as a rookie, and he was with Kansas City. And it's like year after year after year, he was getter with just jumping routes. He takes his chances. He takes a hell of a chance. And sometimes those chances don't work out, but sometimes those chances do work out. And it's with his interceptions. He came in the league in 2015. He had 8, and he took 2 to the house. In 2016, he had 6. In 2017, he had 5. In 2018, he had 3. In 2019, he had 5 altogether because he was traded. And then last year, he had 4. So this year is just going to be another multi-interception season, another year of jumping routes for Marcus Peters. And we definitely going to be looking forward to that. Jimmy Smith going into year number 11. Iman Marshall going into year number 3. Brandon Stevens, who's a rookie. Sean Wade. I feel good about Sean Wade coming over from Ohio State as a rookie. He's learning from guys like Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, which could only iron sharpens iron. So we'll see how Sean Wade develops, and Brandon Stevens as well. We'll see how they develop in the next coming years. Chris Westry going into year number 2, and Tavon Young going into year number 6. In the safety position, Chuck Clark going into year number 5. Deshaun Elliott, year number 4. Anthony Levine Sr. going into year number 10. I believe he's a starter too. Either Chuck Clark or Deshaun Elliott, one of those guys are starters. 2 of those guys are starters. But one of those guys coming off the bench. Either way, Jordan Richards going into year number 7, Geno Stone, year number 2, Nigel Warrior, and then Darius Washington, who's a rookie. To cap off the special teams, Justin Tucker going into year number 10. Been dubbed as the best kicker in the game for like the past I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. He's got some competition now after being on the throne for so long, alone for so many years. He gets lonely at the top, but hopefully Justin will have a bounce back year where he just knocking down everything. Um, he also has some competition with Jake Verreri. He's a rookie. Sam Koch going into year number 16 as the punter. The rookie class, no, I already read them, but I'm going to read them again. Rashad Bateman, who's hurt. Hopefully he returns pretty soon, has a speedy recovery. Adafe Owe, the linebacker out of Penn State. Ben Cleveland, a guard out of Georgia. Brandon Stevens, a cornerback out of SMU. Tylan Wallace, a wide receiver out of Oklahoma State. Sean Wade, a cornerback out of Ohio State. Dylan Hayes, defensive end, pass rusher out of Notre Dame. And then Ben Mason, a fullback out of Michigan. That is your Baltimore Ravens draft class. I just wanted to kind of like run through the wide receivers one more time, though. I don't know if they're particularly not getting it right, but when you got guys, all right, Rashad Bateman hurt. You got Miles Boykin, who you drafted. Marquise Brown was drafted, I want to say, in the first round. Boykin was drafted, I want to say, late in the second, third, something like that. Devin Duvernay, he's on the special teams, but he was also drafted a year after. You bring in Sammy Watkins, who you already knew was an injury possibility, and he hasn't let you down yet. My thing is with the wide receivers. I would love to see Lamar Jackson air this ball out a lot more. He's definitely capable of it. And then you bring receivers in. You know, even they're talking about trading for a wide receiver. But how can receivers maximize their opportunities if you're running the ball 70% of the game? You're not really maximizing anything. You know, Hollywood Brown's not getting production. Miles Boykin's not getting production. I'm going to go through these receivers real quick. The numbers last year anyway. Okay, as far as target, Marquise Brown had 100 targets, 51 catches, 769 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 88 targets, 58 receptions, 701 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's a tight end. Willie Snead, who's no longer there, 48 targets. So your big primary targets are Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. Everybody else not even getting the ball like that because they run the ball so much. So my thing is, I'm hoping to see that Lamar Jackson airs this ball out a lot more this year. And, get those receivers some maximized opportunities. First 5 games of the season for this team. At the Raiders, that's the first Monday night game. Then they're at home against the Chiefs. At the Lions. At the Broncos. And at home against the Colts. So I'm going to repeat that. At the Raiders. And they're at home against the Chiefs. At the Lions. At Denver. And then back at home against the Colts. It's a pretty tough match. There's a pretty tough little 5 games right there, man. So I'm not saying that the Ravens are maybe the Ravens probably take a step back this year. I don't know. They're definitely still in maybe top 10, right outside the top 10 in my power rankings. Whenever I create it and whenever I share it with y'all probably will see it. But they definitely are top. They definitely are a top 10 team. I just think that they probably take a step back Defensively, nah. But offensively, I don't think the run game is going to be kicking like that. I mean, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. But I just want to see Lamar Jackson maximize his opportunity and air this ball out a lot more instead of using his legs a lot. This is Larry Patterson for GT365. That's Game Time 365 Sports, live here on the GTSN. That's the Game Time Sports Network, bringing you 32 teams in 32 days, talking about them Baltimore Ravens. Until then,